Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast produced by Terrier TV. I am Frank Alligator Robb. Why did I add Frank that time? I'm not exactly sure. Mr. Curtis is super proud of me because at least for 3 episodes in a row now, I have started the clock on time.
That's true, and it's a good sign because I don't have to now spend time. Although we are. We are spending time now talking about the button and the clock. And the whole purpose of you actually pressing the button is that we don't then have to talk about the clock. But now we're talking about the clock.
Because I wanted to brag a little bit.
I
wanted to brag
really
just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay.
Cindy, it's been a long time since I've seen you. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Your microphone's off, though.
That's fine.
Oh, now it's on. There you go.
That's fine. Everyone will appreciate that.
It's okay. We have random sounds of music come in sometimes. People's mics get randomly turned off. That was weird.
That was definitely weird.
That was the day you weren't here.
I was here.
No, you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was music that played across the microphone, and we could hear it, but nobody else could hear it. But it was 100% there, and we blamed the people in the sound room because it was probably their fault anyhow.
But then we went back to the playback, and it wasn't there. We couldn't hear it.
It was weird.
Never showed up.
It was really.
It was a group delusion.
Yeah.
It was.
We all heard it at exactly.
I think it might
have
have actually been in my head, but
No, it was one of those things where we all flinched at the same
projected
time.
just a little bit.
Yeah, I looked at Mr. Curtis, and he's like, "Hey, turn that off in there. Will you turn that off?" And I'm going, "Oh, yikes! This is crazy right now." Okay. Anyhow, so today on the podcast, we are joined by Mr. Casey Carroll. Casey, how's it going?
It's going great.
It's good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for having me today.
Your tan is working out extremely well.
Thank you very much as well. I think it's pretty strong. Golf game, not as much, but the tan game.
Yeah. Are you a golfer?
I am.
I did not know you were a golfer.
Different circles, I'd be more forthcoming with that information, but with my Thursday crew for sure.
Oh, okay. Where do you guys normally golf?
Down south, Vieira East.
Okay.
Duran.
You go the big Duran or the small Duran?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
The small one's kind of fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Par 3 is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. So tell us about you, where you grew up, and where you went to school.
Yeah, for sure. Born and raised in South Florida, Plantation.
Oh.
Grew up there till about 6th grade, and my parents said, we need to get out of here. They kind of saw the writing on the wall with South Florida, the boom, and all the folks, the influx that was really starting to happen. So we shifted gears and moved over to the west coast of Florida, a small town called Englewood. It's about 40 minutes south of Sarasota. Not a ton on the map. One high school there in town, Lemon Bay High School, go Manta Rays. And played sports, every sport I could while there, baseball, football, basketball, and did pretty decent in the classroom as well, in addition to the football field, and had an opportunity to go to college on a scholarship. Prior to all this, name, image, likeness, nobody was really making any money there going to college back in the day, but was afforded an opportunity to go matriculate at Stanford University out in California. So
Okay, so you got that to me means that you're not dumb. That's a tough school to get into. That's a tough.
I love
school
how
to get
delicately
into.
you put
I
that.
know.
You are not dumb.
You are not an idiot.
Dealt
yes.
with high school students for a long time. So, yeah. I mean, so what did you major in there?
So I actually majored in urban planning, urban studies.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
city development, design, 10, 15, 30-year plans, that kind of stuff.
Because that's one of the knocks on Stanford athletics. It's kind of the same thing as Notre Dame and all that, is that they have such high academic standards that, sometimes their athletics suffer because of that.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. And that's a tough situation to be competitively from an athletic standpoint. But there have been some exceptions, some blue chips, even in classes while I was there at school. And we weren't the most successful program in the country by any means. Some good memories for sure, but some guys that I played against that were excellent pianists and the nastiest offensive tackles you've ever gone against. The guy was, can play any sort of melody off the field, but on the field you thought he was going to rip your head off on the daily, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Wow.
So they do exist, as rare as they are, especially for linemen, defensive linemen. It's just I don't know why it seemed to be an anomaly.
Kind of a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more in a second because I want to get into the whole defensive line, offensive line, the trench culture there for sure. Because that's a whole different breed of human being.
Definitely.
But tell us about the role of football and sports in general in your life. And getting you through there and getting you through college and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sports. Ever since I was a kid, I don't know, anything with a ball and teammates is generally something I gravitated towards if I was allowed to participate. Barring my weight didn't hold me back. I was a big kid. I haven't shrunken any either in my adult stages of life, but things that kept me off the Pop Warner field. So I did flag football, baseball, basketball, and then really kind of held me accountable, or my parents did, via sports. Back then, used to love practice. College practice, a little different animal. But, youth, amateur sports, wow, you get to see my buddies, get to go to the playing field. Well, you have to take care of your business in the classroom. How are your grades? How's this? Did you go to school today? Those kind of things, and just really hold me accountable. And then later in life with football, I didn't play tackle football. I played 1 year, Pop Warner. Couldn't say that was the most enjoyable experience, but I learned what football was about, and it was not a sport for the meek of heart. I remember distinctly one game as a Pop Warner athlete running up to my coach. We were getting stomped somewhere down in South Florida. I was like, Coach, give me the rock. I can run it. I got this. Never played running back a day in my life. I was an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, Pop Warner. Okay, go ahead, Carroll. Sling me the ball. Boom! Serious collision. I'm pretty sure I got some degree of concussion. Threw up on the way home, and I'm like, I don't know about this anymore. And then I got too big for it, flagged, and then got to high school. And that's really when the life lessons were instilled into me, and making those friends for life that former teammates on that surface and in the locker room, for sure.
Tell us about those life lessons.
Yeah, when you're in it, it's one thing that you maybe don't process so much, and there's also another quote, either in it or you're of it, that a player, once he got up in front of us at Stanford, spoke about, and that's something I would apply. But in high school, while you're in it, you don't necessarily understand all the lessons that you're gaining from your coach. You may be processing some of the information. It may have seemed kind of hokey, but for us, our head coach, Mike Messina, he always instilled the 5 C's in us. And we're like, yeah, 5 C's. What are the 5 C's? But things that we would harp on the daily, that if anything, if we weren't state champions on the football field, how is this going to affect you positively moving forward in life? What are the things that you could fall back on in moments of despair? Now, not everything's always going to be triumphant, but who you are, what's going to make you up as a person, and those 5 C's being class, character, commitment, consistency, and courage. So those are the 5 C's that he was really drilling into us, and really helped for me, and find it to be applicable to the other avenues, pursuits in life since then.
What were some of your, you speak about your coach there at Stanford, but what were some of your biggest influences going through your football career?
Yeah, that first head coach, that varsity head coach, as a freshman I played JV. Once again, I hadn't played tackle football for a number of years. Throw the helmet, football pads on, like, let's go. This feels so cool. And then I got that instant rush again when I had the first collision there, first kickoff return of a JV football season, which seems inconsequential. There's all of 10 parents on one side and 20 and some kids on the other. But that first hit and that shock was like, oh, I love this. Let's do this again, run this back again. So then after that, I really started having a passion for the sport, and really started to try to take things a little more serious, working out in the weight room, approach to diet, all that kind of stuff as a sophomore, and got called up. And then my defensive line coach when I was a sophomore was also my middle school PE coach. And middle school was a weird time, a lot of transitions. I taught also middle school. It was a strange time. For sure, and seeing them transition as students through this, and all the emotions and what have you. But that being said, I was there as well and made some jokerish decisions, and sometimes not for the betterment of myself or maybe the coach's demeanor for that day. So Coach Kiesling grabbed me aside one day. We're out in the field doing soccer, I don't even think ultimate frisbee was a thing back then, but doing some activity out in the open field. Hey, Carroll, come here. Grab me over. You can't do this anymore. But kind of sternly grabbed my shirt, our little L.A. Angel middle school PE uniform you had to change into, and not so many words told me to cut the crap, cut it out. And some other choice words, of course, too. But that moment really kind of didn't shake me to the core, but it said something.
Kind of a little bit of a wake-up.
It was. And then knowing full and well, too, because he was also very openly expressive about, I will be one of your coaches should you play high school, because there's only one.
Mm-hmm.
You don't cut this out, you're going to have to deal with a lot more of me coming up. So it was a good wake-up call. Oh, okay. Thanks, Coach. So I would say he was another major positive influence in my life. And then, all the other coaches that we had on staff, Huber, our defensive coordinator is actually a Melbourne guy, Melbourne High grad, or O'Galley grad, come to find out. Played at University of Florida, passed away not too long ago, Coach Hutchison, who was a big influence as well.
Okay. So you kind of already got to that, but what is, in your opinion, the role of a coach in high school football, and what can a coach bring to a team beyond the field?
Yeah.
You kind of got into that a little bit, but give us a little bit more of that.
Yeah, so I've got to be on both sides of the coin as a player and as a coach, and really, try to make some positive changes in either student athletes' lives or positively affect the outcome of a game and not lose. But with a coach, it's getting a group of guys together and to buy into something. What is our mission? What is our belief? Similar to a corporation, right? You got a head, you got the CEO. How are you going to sell it and basically have all these people come to your belief, your system, your way? And that could be an offensive system, defensive system, but whatever that you're going to deem to be success. And how you're going to measure that success. Is that success going to be measured, by tangibles, yards, downs, W's and L's, or is the success going to be measured by graduation rate, by players coming back and visiting with coaches, things of that nature, going on and leading successful, productive careers as citizens in the community? How do you measure that success as a coach? And that's up to each individual.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. There's a lot more to it than just winning football games, for sure.
Yeah.
So you were a defensive lineman, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past. The kind of I think the trenches, the offensive and defensive line, are probably some of the most intricate positions on the football field. Yet it's complete chaos. How long does it take as a player to balance those two things out, where you can kind of start seeing through the battle fog and seeing the techniques and what's going on in order to do your job?
Yeah, so the best way to describe a football play, and if you've ever seen Any Given Sunday, those camera footages from like the football player's point of view, POV,
yeah,
that's very similar. Everything's kind of shaky beneath a face mask. Your perspective, kind of somewhat tunnel vision. You got to keep your head on a swivel so you don't. They took out the blind side now, but back in the day, someone could decleat you, no problem.
Right.
But the best way to describe it is 6 seconds of fury. That's what our defensive coordinator used to say in high school. It's 6 seconds of just chaos that you're managing, and then the whistle blows, and there's a pile of human beings. You guys are getting up. Somebody made a good play, hopefully, maybe made a bad play on the other side, and then you reset it, get back, group, and do it again for another 6 seconds. So that's 6 seconds of fury, and then within that chaos, like you said, you have the trenches, which to the average viewer is just they're larger individuals. Okay, there's literally a line of them. Okay, offense, O-line, that makes sense. Defense, D-line. All right, nothing's too complicated here. But when you start to break down, the minute aspects, the minutia of the position, and what can really lead one to be successful, and then looking at it from the other perspective, like I would do with the D-line guys. Look, these are tactics that they could use on the other side to be successful, and this is what you have to defend against, and what tools you have in your kit, and how we're going to, exploit some of their opportunities that they might present.
How long does it take, when you're actually playing ball and you're learning all these techniques, How long does it take to forget about that chaos and actually put those tools to work? I mean, does that take you a few years of doing it, or I mean, are there some players that just immediately pick it up?
Yeah, it's to each individual athlete and their skill set and their ability and comprehension of their own sort of biomechanics. Some kids and some players are stiffer than others. What they call a knee bender. A defensive line, the idea is to be lower than the offensive lineman for leverage purposes, and also maintaining gap responsibility, all that kind of fun stuff. But I would say honestly, things didn't click for me, and where I was like, oh, now this makes sense. Probably my junior year in college. High school, the better athletes and the more tenacious players are going to separate themselves in general, and you can see it. I could show up to a TH game, many Friday nights, or maybe the spring game. I'm not sure who they got on the docket for spring.
I don't remember who that is. Yeah, I don't remember.
But you can see who those players are, who the ones that could stand. I mean, generally they're usually larger, and if they're not, the speed's going to be another separating factor. But
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you too. When you're watching D-line in person or on film, what are the first things you notice? Is it do you watch their hands? Do you watch their first step? Do you watch their posture? As an ex-defensive lineman and a coach, what are the things that pop to you first when you're watching that happen?
Yeah, I think two things that really stand out. Burst. So burst off the ball would be number one.
Kind of that first step burst.
That first step, or even the 1-2, because after that second step is really where you're going to be redirecting yourself to rush the passer, run down the sweep, fit yourself in the gap for a double team, kind of prepare for that. So yeah, that's kind of the first thing you look for is that first step. Burst. Number two would be pursuit and effort. When you're watching a tape, and what I would always express to these kids too, if they had any desire to go to the next level, things that these coaches are looking for. They burst. They want to see you making plays. But then at the tape, what they don't realize, and what really took me my freshman year to realize, the eye in the sky never lies.
Yeah, if you're taking a play off or not being relentless and
exactly
following the backside and getting after it.
Exactly. So a lot of the student athletes, the trendy thing, and they want those too. They want the highlight tapes, right? They want to see you making all these plays, and you see them, and the kids share them on social media. And they got all the cool videos, and they got the little circles, or the arrow pointing down, like, "Hey, I'm over here. Watch me over here." That's great and all. Then they want to go, "Okay, we have an interest. We're biting. We like what we see. Send us a game tape. We want to see one game. Your best game. Send it to us."
Mm-hmm.
Those first 10 plays, if they're looking at a defensive end or a tackle, and they're getting off the ball, they're tearing things up. Okay, let's watch the last 10 plays. They're not even worried
That's
about
smart.
the outcome. And then what they do is they look at the snap. Ball snaps. Okay, there he is. That's the one we're looking for. All right, the ball's away. What is he doing? Oh, he's just jogging or standing up, or is this dude going, hair on fire to the other sideline trying to pursue this running back 60 yards down the field, still at the end of the game? That's what they want to look for. That type of top tier talent and effort, tenacity on the defensive side.
What do you believe is the best tool a defensive lineman can have in their toolbox? Like if you had to pick one thing, what would it be? Would it be that first step?
First step,
would it be hand placement?
Hand placement would be key as well.
Yeah. Knee bend.
Leverage.
Yeah, leverage.
I think leverage is key because there's a lot of things you can do, and that's really what led me to a lot of success. My coach would always say, "Oh, you're a natural knee bender." I'm like, I have no idea what that means, but I'm just trying not to get my head smashed in over here, or trying to.
What is this, medieval times?
Yeah, right. Or, but so yeah, I just played generally low to the ground, and that led me to be successful. Believe it or not, my stature, I was one of the smaller D linemen in college. In general, 6'2", 280, fluctuating.
Yeah, small.
Right. By their terms. And then, you've gone against offensive linemen, 6'7", 6'11".
Yeah, 310 plus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's bizarre how that works out. So you were talking about a little bit early on, college players in pay nowadays. What are your thoughts on that?
Man,
it's a controversial subject that people have views on from all angles. as an ex-college player, I've been interested to hear somebody their thoughts on it.
Yeah, and it's so new to the whole.
What would be the cons of it?
So
are there cons to it? Because these college football programs are making all this money. What would be the con in paying the students for being there?
So here's one con that came up the other day, and Deion Sanders was very outspoken about it. Some student athletes, maybe at HBCUs or smaller schools, they can get poached. There's the transfer portal too, which really created a different scheme in college athletics. I agree with the one-time transfer, but when you have guys that are circulating and kind of misusing the transfer portal, it makes for an even messier situation. But with the name, image, likeness, the NIL deals, what they're able to do sometimes then at like USC was very, very successful in doing it this transfer portal period and recruiting period, saying, hey, Southern California, great place. Look, got Hollywood over here. We have X, Y, and Z companies hooked up. You can have an NIL deal for 7 figures if you sign here and come to our school.
Oh, so the different schools can offer more money at one or the other.
So,
that I did not know.
Boosters and stuff. In fact, the NCAA I read today is they're going to put guidelines out probably in a week about what boosters can do.
Yeah.
So they're going to
The boosters are getting way too involved, and there's some shady stuff going on.
So literally you can recruit higher value students at the schools that have the more money than in this case you're saying.
You got it.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even think about
So
that.
is the solution to that to just put a cap?
That's
to
what
all
I was
come to an
thinking.
agreement and say this is the most any school can pay any individual
I thought there
player?
was a cap. I thought I didn't know enough about it to, I guess, comment, but I always thought there was a cap. Like, okay, they can only make $50,000 a year or something like that. But I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And, other coaches, John Calipari came out, he was outspoken and said, hey, look, we're not going to we're not guaranteeing NIL money to incoming recruits. I'm not going to play that game because inevitably Kentucky's going to sell itself, and those student athletes that are able to go there will have those NIL deals in place anyways. But it's really just created for a very unique situation. And then I forget who I was talking to about it, that if that's the case, and these student athletes are coming in as incoming freshmen, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in their bank accounts to do a couple ads, promotions, appearances for XYZ company. That's awesome and all. And I'm all about student athletes being paid, but a lot of these athletic programs, or not so much the athletic programs, schools and their departments, English department, the bands, a lot of these other facets of college are struggling for funds, and they're still going to give away scholarships to guys that are millionaires. That seems like a weird conundrum.
Yeah, well, it's such a brand new thing, and it's got to evolve.
Right.
It's got to evolve, and they got to figure it out, because, right now it's like the Wild West.
It is.
And there's no rules or very little rules, and so they're trying to figure it out. And there'll be abuses. There'll be abuses, and from the abuses, they'll figure out, well, how do we rein this in? And so it'll be interesting to see. I love college football.
Me too.
I love college football, and the idea of this, the kids getting something off of their work, makes perfect sense to me. But I saw something where there was a university who was offering like offensive linemen a specific amount of money. You come play for us, we'll guarantee you this much money. And
wow.
Yeah.
See, I legitimately thought there were caps on it. I didn't think it was just a broad spectrum. I'm going to give you as much money as it takes to get you here.
Well, anytime you have something that's not strictly regulated like that, you're going to have people that are going to take advantage of it.
Well, there have been rumors for years that stuff was happening anyhow, other ways. But
in the old days, in the old days, with Bear Bryant in Alabama,
pay somebody's cousin or something, to hold on to it for him.
give the guy's father a tractor or something,
right.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that stuff happened.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Even not that long ago, Reggie Bush at USC.
That's true.
They got caught up in that scandal, and folks
That's
getting
true.
a new pad out in San Diego, I think it was.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right. That wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. So defensive line, 4-3 versus 3-4. Did you play? You played in a 3-4 system?
Oh yeah, 3-4, 4-3. And then our short yardage, 5-2, even.
Okay, so you played a 5-man line.
typically we were 4. Well, it depended on the coordinator too. And then even in our 3-4 schemes, you're walking up outside backers.
Right.
They just happen to be standing up.
Now I got a question for you, because something you just said there, depending on your coordinator. How many coordinators did you have in college?
We had some serious turnover.
Did you? Okay.
And that it's one of the main reasons that I do support the transfer portal, because coaches back in the day weren't penalized for leaving colleges, but as a student athlete back in the day, if you transferred in conference, that was a 2-year, you're riding the pine. You can practice, but you can't play. Out of conference, 1 year, you just gotta, get acclimated to the system and go to classes, stay out of trouble, all that good stuff. But the coaches, they could freely leave wherever the money was, really going to take them.
Right.
So my freshman year, our first head coach was a great man, Tyrone Willingham. He, after the Seattle Bowl, which no longer exists either, one of the strangest setups, they had both teams on the same sideline, and we could only drive the football one direction because it was at, I think it's Safeco Park, the Mariners. I think it's still called Safeco.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, it was the strangest thing. So if there was a turnover, literally you'd stop, offense, defense off the field, other units would run on, and then you go the same.
So like they only had goalposts at one end of the field?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
That's a riot.
It was super different. Unique situation. Beautiful week in Seattle. No rain except for that game day, and we were all itching at the bit. We were freshmen to get home. At least I was, speaking on my own behalf. But I do remember him assuring us, "Hey guys, I know there's rumors in the news, and this is before obviously." This is at like the advent of the internet. Facebook had just kind of come into existence. We were one of the few schools that had it. So there wasn't a ton of news circulating, but we caught some sniffs of it. And he assured us prior to us leaving, I'm not going anywhere. Okay, cool. Thanks, coach. The next morning when I wake up after my red-eye flight from Seattle, one of my parents came in and said, oh, you know what? Your head coach is bolting for Notre Dame. So...
Wow.
So that was one. And then after
what a
him,
betrayal.
Oh, I know, right?
That's pretty rough.
That's not what he said.
Like you could have just owned that. Like just be like, yeah, guys, I'm leaving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the worst part about it was after that, then, all right, call bygones bygones. It was a bad breakup, whatever, go ahead, coach, ghost us for the rest of life, whatever it is.
Dad left in the middle of the night.
Yeah, packed up and don't even have bowls for cereal. But
he's already got another family.
that's what we did feel like. Okay. Just rehashing all these bad feelings now.
See, now I can join the conversation. We're talking about childhood trauma. I'm here. Yeah.
But yeah, then to top it all off, and obviously the staff, they usually ride with the head coach, and they want to take them with, or the people they want to take with.
Right.
So they did, and all the staff had been in South Bend for like a month. Well, we still had our end of the year banquet.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So to put gas on a fire, they invited them all back.
No.
Yes.
No, they didn't.
Yes. And he did come back and speak to us before I should have prefaced with that too, and split. And there was a lot of animosity in that room, and some guys really want to speak their minds, but some of them bit their tongues. But yeah, they brought all the coaching staff back for the banquet.
Was it awkward?
Wow.
They just kind of sat in
Read
the
a
corner the whole
room.
time and didn't talk to anybody?
It was
They all
super
kinda
awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of all sat in the corner. Yeah. Yikes.
Oh, wow.
That's
okay,
weird.
so that was one coach.
So that was one. Following Willingham, we had Buddy Tevens. He was an offensive coordinator under Spurrier at Florida. He, I believe, still now is and he was the prior head coach at Dartmouth, came out to Stanford. Our AD was very fond of familial relationships, guys that he went to college with or knew somewhere, somehow in those circles. So he was a buddy of his, brought him out, no pun intended, but brought Buddy out to Palo Alto. And great guy, great coach, high energy, would do anything for you. It just didn't work out in those circumstances. Still had a bunch of guys that went to the league, get drafted under his leadership, and a bunch of dudes obviously turned out to be very successful. Just his stay there didn't work out for too long. And then the last head coach, I was there for 5 years. I could have pulled a 6th year because I tore my knee my 5th year going into that season, but I opted not to. I just went for the surgery and called it a day, hung up the cleats there. But our last coach was Walt Harris from Pitt. He coached Larry Fitzgerald I think James Conner was there under him, but
There's a couple big names.
So
Yeah.
that's a lot of turnover.
a lot of turnover. That last one was a lot of turmoil too, which was also leading to my decision not to want to stay.
Right. Okay.
So scheme and everything flips whenever a new coach comes in, right? I mean,
It does.
Defensive line setups. I mean, everything's different.
It does.
And like you were saying, in those days before the transfer portal, you're stuck.
You're stuck.
Can't go anywhere.
Yep. And maybe the coach that had recruited you, they left for greener pastures or got promoted to some other position elsewhere. Then what? The next guy that comes in, dude, you may not be his guy. So they'll,
Right.
some
Oh,
younger
yeah.
guys really start to get looks. So it just made for an interesting situation. Not that it necessarily applied to me, but I felt like before.
But you could see it happen to
Oh,
guys.
for sure. Especially in the quarterback room. That's, the defensive line. I was more of a rotational guy, so I got a lot of good snaps on the field, and it wasn't always at nose or D tackle, and depending on scheme, sometimes at end. So I had a good opportunity to play and played in some cool stadiums in front of a bunch of people, but the quarterback room is much thinner. It's one dude.
Yeah.
And if you're not that guy,
Right.
that's going to be a long
And
collegiate career.
if you got nowhere to go,
Right.
Yeah. It's got to be bleak.
Yeah.
So you're coaching a high school program, and you got students that are fixing to leave that high school program and go on scholarship somewhere, or go try out for a college team somewhere. What's your advice to them?
Run. I just had this conversation with a not prospective. He's committed to UCF. A lot of talent, great kid, and he's going there as a preferred walk-on, which is a much tougher journey. I saw a lot of guys that I even played with be very successful as walk-ons and attain scholarships while they're out there, and then go to the NFL. Greg Camarillo is the first one that comes to mind that I play with. He's a wide receiver, played the Dolphins. I think he's with the Vikings for a number of years too.
Okay.
But I said to him, are you ready? What have you been doing? Because he's already been graduated and just doesn't need to attend school any longer. He has all his credits and then some. Heading over to UCF. Oh, I've been working out, coach. Go on. Well, I've been lifting weights. I do a throwing routine in the morning, lifting weights, and a little bit of cardio. You do know what you're getting into, right? Like that 2.5 hours.
A little bit of cardio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That 2.5 hours, you are on the clock. There is no wasted time because that's NCAA mandated. They can't exceed the time. It's not like, oh, we need to run this back again.
Oh, so every split second you're doing something.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
So my best advice to him, and I said, if you haven't heard it, I'll keep that bug in your ear. Run before you get there, because it's any running that you thought you've done in high school and prior to that, it's times 100. You know what I mean? And then it really takes a while to get acclimated to that and constantly moving where you're not taking breaks and breaths. That 6 seconds of fury turns into 60 minutes of what the heck did I just get myself into, if you're not properly prepared for it. And there is an acclimation period in general, but my best advice: run.
That's good.
There you go. Yep.
All right, you guys want to do some trivia?
Let's do it.
All right, it's
Can't
trivia
wait.
o'clock. So
Cannot wait.
I built some trivia for you, Casey,
Awesome.
and you'll have some help here. So
Will you?
yeah, I think you guys will be all right with this. So this is kind of sort of superhero / comic trivia.
Okay.
All right. So,
Okay.
I'm listening.
And I'm putting this up so Mr. Curtis isn't cheating.
Exactly. Because we all know that.
No, at this point I feel like I have to, even though I'm sorry, Mr. Curtis, I feel terrible.
Okay.
no, you don't.
I don't. It still makes me smile inside. Number one, the what age of comics started in 1938 with the introduction of whom?
A two-parter.
It's a two-parter. Yeah.
The golden age of comics.
It is. Yep. The
Okay.
what age of comics started in 1938 with the introduction of whom?
Superman.
It was.
Wow.
There we go.
Yeah,
Wow.
Superman number one. That was the golden age of comics. Yeah. No doubt
Impressive.
about it.
See, there you go.
Harmony knew this, I can tell.
I was
Okay.
gonna.
So this one's a multi-part question. Okay, I'm going to give you some clues.
Oh,
to
gosh.
thi- I'm going to give you some clues, and this is to a person. Okay, who's this? This
Okay.
will make sense when you get here, I think. This guy's father was a professor of literature. He has two brothers in the radio industry, I believe in the Northeast, I think in New York. He was once the voice for Superman and Spider-Man in 2 different animated films here recently. He is a huge comic book collector that had millions of dollars worth of comics stolen, including Superman #1.
Everybody's in radio?
No, so his 2 brothers are. He's
Oh.
actually, if I'll give you an extra hint, he's an actor. An actor that's been in a lot of stuff for many, many years.
Mark Wahlberg?
I can tell Harmony knows again, and she's very disappointed in us.
Okay, I'm going to go over it one more time. This guy's father was a professor of literature. He has 2 brothers in the radio industry, I believe in New York. He was once the voice for Superman and Spider-Man in 2 different animated films here over the last 7 years. He's a huge comic book collector that had millions of dollars worth of comics stolen, including Superman #1. He was on David Letterman one time, and there was rumors that he was a vampire because there was this picture from like the late 1700s of a guy in a chair that looked exactly like him. It's hysterical.
Oh, God, I know this. Oh, now I'm disappointed in myself.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually played the part of a superhero in a movie one time, and it's he's the only person that ever played that part because it's never been done other than him. And it was a few movies in a row.
Harmony, save us.
Go ahead, Harmony.
Okay, so I heard superhero movie and never done that movie ever again. I'm thinking Ryan Reynolds.
Nope.
No?
Nope. Older than Ryan Reynolds. He's an older actor.
No, he's got brown hair.
I don't know what color hair he has anymore. I think it's more gray these days.
That's the way it is with everybody, Frank. Come on.
I can picture in my head
His-
the picture.
So his actual name, he's related to the Coppolas.
You're talking about Nick Cage?
Nick Cage.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, my
Yeah, Nick
gosh.
Cage, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. His father was a professor of literature. He
Oh,
has
I'd
2 brothers in
never
the radio
gotten that.
industry. He was once the voice of Superman and Spider-Man here recently in 2 different animated films.
Wow.
He's saying like $200 million of the comic books stolen. He's still doing stuff about it recently where he's begging people to give his comic books back.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, he's
Oh, wow.
a huge comic book collector. So anyhow.
Wow.
Good job. You guys got there. It wasn't Ryan Reynolds. I'm sorry. Is it ironic that Ryan Reynolds plays the same part in every single movie he plays?
It does.
Literally,
seem
he
that
is
way.
the same guy in every single movie he's in.
I've started to notice that. Yeah.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
No offense, Mr. Reynolds. Number 3, Marvel's first superhero appearing in 1939 in Marvel #1 was who?
The Human Torch.
It was.
Oh,
It was the
there
Human
we go.
Torch. Yep,
The Human Torch.
The
Okay.
first,
Took a minute.
their first superhero.
I didn't know that,
Yep.
actually.
I had no idea.
Whom plays the voice of Groot in the Marvel movies?
I know this one.
Me too.
He's
Harmony
actually
looks so excited.
he's actually done that voice in 12 different languages.
Because I think
Yeah.
he also does like all the motions because they do motion capture.
That's true.
I think he does.
He does.
He does do all the movements. Go
He
ahead.
does.
Tell
Vin
us.
Diesel?
Vin Diesel.
It is.
I
Vin
didn't
Diesel.
know that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't.
No, Vin Diesel. Yeah.
You would never think such a big man like him is playing such a tiny little character.
Well, he's only tiny in the newest ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
2
big in
movies.
the first
But
one.
that's 2 movies.
That's
Yes.
true. Last 2. Yep.
Well, he was in other things other than those, though, was he not? Wasn't Groot in?
No, I think Groot's been in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Both
the
of them.
first one and the second one, and then in
Yeah. So there's a third one.
in
Endgame.
no the Endgame.
Yeah. So there's a
Endgame.
third one. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a third one. Okay. Don't freak me out too much. All right. Number 5. 1970 started the Bronze Age of comics, with what popular Marvel character? Somebody you don't hear spoke of anymore, really.
The 1970s.
Yep. 1970 started the Bronze Age of comics with
Bronze
what
Age.
popular Marvel character? Somebody you don't. I mean, everybody knows his name, but you don't hear him spoke of in. He's not in any of the movies anymore.
I have a guess.
Is it
Yeah,
Wolverine?
go for it. It is not.
No. Well, no.
Oh,
Nope.
Wolverine movies all the time. Like,
Yeah,
come
Wolverine's
on.
in movies all
He's
the time.
not in any of the movies anymore.
No, so I think they did they might have remade one of these movies a while ago. So they did them in the 90s, late 80s maybe. Very large, muscular guy. That covers up most of them, I think.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not helping
There you
here.
go. Yeah.
Submariner?
Nope.
I thought that was it.
Nope. He had a whole series of comics that were all his for many, many years starting then. And maybe they still make them. I'm not sure.
Oh, I have another guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The Punisher?
No, good one, though, too. Good one though too. The Netflix Punisher series is amazing. If you
Yeah.
haven't watched that,
Is
by the
it?
way. No, it's incredible.
Mr. Fantastic.
No, it's actually Conan the Barbarian.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah,
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Indeed. Okay, so now we're gonna do the band trivia real quick. You guys ready for this?
Okay,
right,
here we go. Band
so-
trivia.
What singer had a Billboard #1 hit in each of the last 4 decades? You can turn your mic on if you feel like saying something, because otherwise we can't hear you. What singer had a Billboard #1 hit in each of the last 4 decades?
Oh, is that
It's a lady.
Mariah
Beyonce?
Carey.
It is Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey. There
Wow,
you go.
well
Yep.
done.
I don't think Beyonce's even 40.
I know, but
I
it's the
don't
only name I could think of.
the only
Hilarious.
singer he knows.
It's the only one I could think of.
Paul McCartney credits which artist with teaching him everything he knows? This guy's on TV these days. I think he's on American Idol as one of the guests,
Repeat the question.
the guest judges. Paul McCartney credits which artist with teaching him everything he knows? Maybe that's not the same guy. I think maybe they're just two different.
I don't know who's on American Idol.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't
Is
know.
it Sting?
No,
I don't know. I'm
that would be
guessing.
hilarious. That'd be.
Yeah,
It's
that's
Little
ages.
Richard. Little Richard.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Little Richard. No, Little
He's
Richard.
on American
Little
Idol?
Richard
No, I'm
has
thinking
passed
of. I'm thinking
away.
of Lionel Richie.
Yeah, you're thinking
think.
of yeah.
They
no,
both have L's and R's in them, so somehow I got confused.
No.
Forgive me.
Little Richard passed away.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr.
All right,
Richard. Who was the first woman ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? What is she laughing about over there?
Because I should know this.
Yes.
I think
Cindy
I know
should
it.
know this. Come on, Cindy. What is it?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Rock and Roll in Cleveland, Ohio.
Do you know this one, Kate?
I have a couple guesses.
Okay,
I
go for
also
that.
have a guess, but
Cher,
Nope.
Joan Jett.
Nope.
I have no more guesses.
Supa said Janet Jackson.
Nope.
Oh,
I'm
Older.
thinking way
Madonna.
before that. I'm not thinking Madonna.
No.
So there was a movie, The Queen of the Damned.
oh.
She is a rock artist, and she was actually indicted into, but I can't remember her name.
Okay, so it's
Joplin?
not. It's not that. No, it's Aretha Franklin.
Oh, there we go. That makes a lot of
Classic.
sense.
Yeah.
Aretha. Yep. Aretha.
respect.
Yep. Respect.
Stop it.
I like where you were going with that, though, Harmony. Yeah.
that was going a direction. I was like, where in the world? No, like negative. No, that's not Aretha Franklin. But hey, your mind was working. It's all good. Number. I don't even know what number this is. Believe it or not, Jimi Hendrix only had one top 40 hit. Which song was it?
Oh, Along the Watchtower,
It was so Along the Watchtower.
which is a Bob Dylan song, by the way.
Really?
Bob Dylan wrote it. And the funny thing about it is Bob Dylan would perform it a certain way, and when he heard Jimi Hendrix play it, he said, "That's the way that it always should be played." And so that's the way he plays it now in concert, was the way Jimi Hendrix did it.
That's pretty epic.
Wow,
Yep.
we were thinking Purple Haze.
No, All Along the Watchtower.
Negatory. I don't know what number this. Who is the only country artist to have a top 20 hit on the Billboard Hot Country Song Chart for 6 straight decades?
6 straight.
Think of country music
Johnny
legends.
Cash.
Nope. Close guess.
Male or female?
Female. That should give it away.
Ooh.
That should definitely give it
Dolly
away.
Parton.
Dolly
It is Dolly
Parton,
Parton. Yep. All right, and last but not least,
Here we go.
what was Elvis Presley's first #1 hit in the United States?
Hound Dog?
Yeah.
Nope.
Blue Suede Shoes?
Negative.
No.
No, there was. I can picture the video recording of him gyrating, wearing the white
Hound
suit.
Dog?
No.
No.
Negative.
No.
Negatory.
Falling in love.
I can't hear you. What she
Is
said?
Really?
it Falling in Love?
No.
No.
No. First one. First #1 hit.
Jailhouse?
Nope.
Okay, Frank, come on.
Heartbreak Hotel.
Oh.
Ooh, Heartbreak Hotel.
Indeed.
Okay.
That was
Mr.
nice.
Casey, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you
Really
so much for
appreciate it.
having me, guys.
Bill, Cindy, it's great having you guys here. It was wonderful as always.
Yes, sir.
All right. Guys, thank you for tuning in. If you have not went over and checked us out on YouTube, that means you're not watching me right now. So go over and check us out on YouTube at Alligator Robb on YouTube. You can find us in the world of sound anywhere you find your podcasts, iHeartRadio, iTunes, all the things, those things, these things, all those things. Again, if you're not watching it, you're just listening to it, you don't know what I'm doing, so it's okay. And yeah, come over there and check us out. Like, subscribe, enjoy, and we'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.